presentation time, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about my presentation, or my social marketing project for President's Park. Let me go ahead and view this slideshow. Okay, so just for some background information, President's Park is an outdoor museum dedicated to the American presidents. We're very, very unique because we offer 16 to 18 foot tall statues of each president from George Washington through George W. Bush. We opened in 2004. We're a private institution, which means that we don't get any outside funding. We don't get any grants, no federal or state funding, nothing along those lines. And so we have to deal with a lack of resources, whether it's monetary or people. So that's one issue that we're really having to deal with. We don't have a very large marketing budget, so we really think that social media will help us in that kind of avenue. Some of the competition that we're having to deal with right now is Jamestown, which is the first colonial settlement, Colonial Williamsburg, the Yorktown battlefields, which is where the last battle of the American Revolution was fought, and then Water Country USA and Busch Gardens, which are both amusement parks. What we find a lot of times is when people come to Williamsburg, they'd rather go do the fun things or do the things that they've heard about, and Jamestown, Colonial Williamsburg, and Yorktown have been around for decades. So we're really having to kind of combat this issue of well-established places with ourselves who haven't been established for more than 6 years. When I spoke with President's Park, they voiced some goals that they wanted to accomplish by using social media, and 3 of them were to bring more people to President's Park, to connect with customers, to see what they're interested in. Maybe we can kind of tailor what we offer based off of what the public is interested in. That gives us a great communication avenue. And then to get the word out, spread the word out to people all over across the country, and not just the people that are in Williamsburg, about what we are, why we're here, and what we do have to offer, because a lot of people come in saying, we didn't even know you were here, we're from California, we had no idea, our friends told us to go all these other places but never mentioned you. So again, that's another issue we're having to deal with, and President's Park believes that social media will help them kind of bypass this issue. So the communities that we want to attract, of course, are going to be those that are passionate about presidential history. That may include American history buffs and educators, anybody that has some interest in it, that's vocal about it, that's passionate about it. Those are the people that we want to target with our social media. The platforms that we're going to use are Twitter, Facebook, and WordPress. We're going to use WordPress as our blog platform, and then use Twitter and Facebook in order to get the word out about our blog posts, about special events that we're having, special promotions that we're doing, like half-off ticket prices or anything along those lines. So those are the 3 main platforms that we're going to be using. Since time is an issue, President's Park may have to do some rearranging of what people are responsible for. The plan is to blog at least once a week, and then to update the Twitter and Facebook accounts at least once a day. So time's going to have to be put aside for this. For the blog, whether it's just a couple of minutes a day, like a half an hour a day, or if you take a whole half a day out of your week to work on it and work on that only, that might be a way to solve the time issue. And then, of course, going back and making sure you're keeping up with posts, anything that people are saying on your Twitter and Facebook accounts, keeping up with that interaction. That's probably going to be the most time-consuming out of everything. And then training. A lot of the employees at President's Park aren't technologically advanced. They don't really like to go about trying new things or learning new ways of doing things. So training is definitely going to have to take place, and this can happen over a couple of hours during the week. And then what I suggest doing is create training videos to demonstrate how to go about updating the Twitter and Facebook account, and everything along those lines, so that they'll have a quick and ready reference to go back to, so that they can say, yes, I know how to do this because this is how it shows me. You can easily do that using Camtasia or another application such as that that has a lot of screen capture abilities. In order to acquire a following, what I suggest President's Park do is search.twitter.com for any mention of anybody going to Williamsburg, Virginia. Doesn't really matter where they originate from, but just kind of stop by and say, hey, we're in Williamsburg, Virginia. I hear you're going on a vacation there, and just kind of give them a little information. And every time that you post to these people, give them the web link and the blog link so that they can always come back and follow later. Blogsearch.google.com in order to find other blogs that are talking about presidential history or events in Williamsburg, so that you can follow them and see what they're talking about, comment, leave the blog post, the link to the blog and link to the website, so that people really know where you are. If they're interested, they can start following you back. I also suggest following businesses and attractions in Williamsburg, because people that are looking at these area attractions and businesses may become interested in President's Park because they see that it's available in Williamsburg and will start following or maybe retweet something, anything to that effect. And then one thing that I suggest doing is anytime you send out an email, we have signatures that are at the bottom of our emails, and what we can do is place a link to our Twitter and our Facebook account in that signature, so that people that are receiving our emails, they click on that link and say that they wanted to decide to follow us on Facebook or Twitter, and then of course interact with users. I also suggest using deliver.it in order to kind of link the Twitter, Facebook, and WordPress accounts together, so that once a blog post is ready to be posted, it automatically sends an update to the Twitter and Facebook accounts, so that you don't have to go back and do that. And that's one way to kind of save time in this whole aspect. So I think that's an excellent tool that we can be using. To assess whether or not we're successful, I do not suggest using the number of followers, because a lot of people tend to just kind of blindly follow a business or an organization without actually having any interest in it. So I recommend, as well as Gary Vaynerchuk did in his book Crush It, to use the number of interactions that the platforms are getting in order to determine if the platforms are being successful. The main reason being is that social media is a two-way communication tool, and if you're not communicating with customers or patrons and they're not communicating back, then you're really not succeeding. You want that interaction, and that's a great way to kind of see if what you're doing is working. And Mr. Vaynerchuk said it's not about how many views you have, it's about how passionate they are, and the most passionate people are going to be the ones that are vocal. So that's one way to kind of assess whether or not the social media is actually working. I recommend doing it on a monthly basis, keeping track of data, and then if the manager wants to go ahead and compare that with previous months to see if there's a trend, if we're getting more interactions, and that sort of thing. So, in conclusion, according to Lee Odin, who had written a blog post entitled Why Companies Suck at Social Media, he had some really good tips at the end of his post, saying that in order to be successful, you have to listen, create, engage, be open, and be brave. So you have to listen to what your followers are saying, interact with them, create great content that people are interested in. You might not be getting everybody out on the internet, but at least create content that your followers are interested in, and your community is interested in. Then engage, interact with the followers, be open. They may have differing viewpoints, they may have other suggestions. Just be open to anything that comes across, and be brave, take risks. Not everything is going to succeed. You may fail from time to time, but learn from those mistakes, and that's what's really going to get you far. And then if all of this works. If you stick to it, it will help to level the playing field between the competitors and President's Park. Even though we haven't been there as long and we don't have as much money to be spending on marketing efforts, this will really help us. So I think this is an excellent opportunity, very cost effective. The only thing it's costing us is time and manpower, but you know, you can always work around that.